Okay, in this video, I want to talk about one of the ways to improve your chances of succeeding in whatever pursuit you're doing, whatever aspect of life that you're, trying to attain some level of success, whatever you're going after. And the reason, like some of these discussions, I think that like the reason I'd even think anybody want to listen to this? Why would anybody want to listen to me talk about like some strategy that could improve their chances of success at something? It's like a self-help kind of realm. And I think that most of that information comes from really successful people, which makes sense. Like somebody who hasn't achieved shit and they're telling you how to do things is like, okay, maybe you need a reality check. You're a little delusional. But I think a lot of people are kind of in the middle ground, and I would put myself in that category where I've made a lot of improvements, tangible improvements in my life, my perspective, the way I look at things, and the way that get a lot of fulfillment from life is trying to improve my ability to do things and working towards a challenge, always having a challenge and trying to progress towards a specific goal. I find the most meaning out of that, and maybe aiming at a goal that seems like difficult, where like one of the big things for me is that I want to be able to make a living online so that I can travel and not be geographically attached to one place. That's why I'm really interested in making content, because I think there are avenues through that you could make enough income to support yourself if you put out enough value and enough benefit that people want to give a fuck, and you find some way to monetize it that's also, resonates with my beliefs and is genuine. That you can make a living doing it. People are doing that, and that's a goal of mine. It's really difficult to do, and I've learned a shit ton from it as I've gone about. I've failed in so many different ways, but the whole time it's made me stronger, better. I've improved my character. I've improved my understanding. I've reduced my inadequacies in many different respects. And the reason I think it would be interesting to talk about this is that maybe there could be more of a community of like typical people that just want to improve but aren't the pinnacle of success. You're not Gary Vaynerchuk, who, is like some crazy hyper productive, work 18 hours a day, crush it, doing social media, all these other things at once. These are the people that, and they should, because it's you achieve something remarkable, so that should stand out. Or somebody like Andrew Tate, even, who's like this multimillionaire, smoking cigars, driving in Lamborghinis, talking about women, kind of disrespectfully, talking about how to make money, all these other good things. He's got a very controversial message. I think there's some pros and some cons to it. Anybody in that realm, right? Who's like, usually they're very successful, which they should be. But I think maybe we could start to create more of a thing of like, how do you get from where you are to them? Like the Grand Canyon of space between people that are looking for some insight, looking to improve themselves, whatever, and the end destination of that person who's saying it is massive and it almost doesn't seem tangible. And I've been there and I've seen that, and it's like, and you try to implement exactly what that person's saying, and it usually doesn't work as good for you, because everybody's a little different, and I think it's going to vary how you're going to have success. I don't think doing exactly what somebody else did is going to give you the exact same life or success that they had, because you're a completely different person. There could be bits and pieces or lessons from it that you could take. But my approach to this is that I'm like progressing and improving in my life in various aspects. And I think that I'd be happy to share that experience in a way of like, this is me as like a more regular person, just trying to live my life and improve in certain aspects. And these are my insights and these are my experiences. And maybe it would be more relatable to people, and you could maybe get more benefit from it because it could be a little bit more tangible. That's sort of the thought. And one of the biggest things that I've found, and I made a different video about this of like, I can't even, it was a couple months back, but it's to do with being uncomfortable and finding ways to push through your uncomfortability. And this is sort of similar, but it's like a little bit more specific in the sense of that I think if you can find a way to look at like challenge or difficulty and like turn like this little sick fuck in your mind that's like, yeah, we like this, it's going to enhance your ability to succeed in that realm so much more. And I'll give it some more specifics. I'm obviously very into working out. And this is what's happened with working out, where like, there's a lot of discipline involved and consistency. But at this point, when a challenge comes, I'm really fucking tired. Maybe I'm even sick, or whatever's going on. There's this or that. And I have to push through to go to the gym. I have to do an hour plus of mobility. I don't want to do that part. And then I have to train really hard. And there's this little fucking thing where it's like, if it presents as a challenge or more difficult, I get more fired up. I'm like, yeah, and I kind of will get goosebumps as I think about that. I'm like, you can't fucking stop me. Oh, you think that like a little adversity and I got a bit of an injury here, and I got to spend an extra 20 minutes trying to warm up to be able to. And as I work, it's kind of hurt, but I'm gonna find solutions. Or I'm feeling really tired. I start to feel dizzy. I start to feel a little bit nauseous. I remember one workout a week or two, I thought I was gonna puke. I don't know why. It was a pre-workout or I ate too soon. I'm like, but it's so uncomfortable, and your reaction to that is, oh, this uncomfortability. Oh no, I better stop. Ah, no. Oh yeah, you're gonna give me a little fucking taste, eh? You're gonna make it difficult. I don't know how else to describe it. Like that little voice in my head, and I look in the mirror, and the music's pumping. I'm like, yes, we like this. And I was just thinking, like, anybody could develop that. And I think through working out, through physical exertion, is the easiest way to develop that, and then start to like discomfort, start to like pain, and not even in a good way where it's like, even if you like working out, you start to like are okay with the muscle pain. But like, nobody likes feeling nauseous, nobody likes feeling dizzy, nobody likes feeling exhausted, and I felt all those things in a workout. And that little voice that like I detect that it's adversity, and I'm like, you can't fucking stop me. Like, you can't, like, okay, yeah, like it makes me work out harder because I know I'm pushing up against an even more difficult challenge. And like, in a weird way, I'm like getting off on it, and that it's like firing me up to push even harder because it's getting harder. And I know it sounds kind of like I'm talking about some twisted sexual scene. But I think anybody can develop that. And now I can see it kind of in other ways it carries over into other aspects of my life, where if I'm trying to do something and I keep like, I won't stop until I figure out how to, like, if it's something with content and I need to get a new subscription to like this site, and then this issue happens and that issue happens, and then I have to look into this, and I have to look into that. Like, I won't stop until it's done. Like, the challenge makes me, like, it turns on this thing where it's like, okay, this is a challenge. Here we go. It's go time. Like, let's figure this out. Or like, or like I'm trying to make content and I go to film a bunch of shots somewhere, and then something goes wrong. The camera's like dead, or like this happens, or like somebody interrupts the shot, or like that. All these, like, in normal response, like, oh, okay, I guess I'll like finish tomorrow, or like, oh, okay, I'm like, no, perfect challenge. Okay, let me persist. Anytime like there's a notable resistance, the response is to persist, and not even because of some logical like thought process or anything, but because you're actually enjoying resisting a significant challenge because it fires you up and makes you feel more powerful and badass. Something like that. That's how I would best describe the emotion. And I think anybody can harness this. And I think that looking at it that way is the first step, and experiencing it through tough physical challenge is the best way in my personal experience. I don't think I would have ever really shifted into that mentality if I never did it through working out. And it particularly solidified a couple months ago when I started drastically increasing the volume. I was kind of experimenting with like really upping the volume in my arm workouts. And at one point I was doing 80 sets of arms in each workout, 40 sets of triceps, 40 sets of biceps. And people, oh, how do you have time for that? Like, that's impossible. Realistically, that workout takes an hour and 20 minutes. You don't have an hour and 20 minutes to go to the gym. If I'm going to do 40 sets and I'm going to superset, I'm going to do a tricep exercise and then a bicep exercise. And it's going to be a 2-minute cycle. So I'm going to hit the tricep exercise, and then in that rest period, as the triceps are resting, I'm going to hit biceps, and I'm looking at the digital clock, and I'm going to come back. Like, let's say I finished and it was 2:20 p.m. And then I finish my set of triceps, boom, 2:20 p.m. Okay. And then I go and I do my set of curls. Like, I'll rest like 30, 40 seconds, catch my breath, do my set of curls, put the weights down. Then I'm looking at the clock. Whenever that gets to 2:22, I need to go again. Or, 90 seconds. Yeah, 90 seconds, because then the exercise takes about 30 seconds to do. So when it gets to 2:21 and 30 seconds, I'm doing my next set of triceps. And so I'm resting like 90 seconds in between each tricep exercise, and like 30 seconds in between each exercise in general. And you could bump that up a little bit to 2 minutes, and then it might take about an hour and a half. But those are pretty typical rest times for anybody who's doing, or it's like in the realm of possibilities. and you don't have a time to do an hour and 20-minute workout. It's complete bullshit. You can make it work. If you focus and you're actually efficient, you can 100% do it. But my point is that those workouts absolutely test that mentality of, are you unbreakable? Can you do this? Because you get to like set 30, you're exhausted. Set 40, set 50, set 60, set 70. You're dizzy, delirious, muscles are super fatigued. And overall, I'm not saying this is like the best way to work out, but if I can find a way to make additional gains, I'm going to take a certain method to the extreme to see the whole body of what's the most effective part. Is doing 10 sets the most effective, or is doing 80 sets the most effective? And what about everything in between? Where in there seem to be the best spot? And I'll experiment and continue to up it and up it and up it. And that's how I ended up doing that. A little bit crazy, but it's a good way to figure out through your own experimentation what results you're going to get, and what's maybe going to work the best for you on an anecdotal basis. And that is like, you do, and that's what made me realize like so much of your limitation is like what you're deciding mentally. Like if you had told me that like 5 years ago, I'd be like, it's not even possible. Like, you can't even do it. Like people say that's not even possible. I don't have time. Da, da, da. If you just push yourself to do it, you see, and then as that fatigue comes in, you get dizzy, you get out of it, you're dripping in sweat, all this other shit, and you just, that little sick fucking voice is like, yeah, this is what we like. I love it. You can't stop me. You're gonna have to kill me before I stop. That's the best way to develop that, and I think it will becomes extremely useful where I still have issues, or like I'm not completely as successful applying it in other realms and other activities or things that I'm doing, but I've seen myself be able to tap into that same kind of mindset and just get shit done where other people don't. Like, and you maybe you're working on something with somebody and this and that, and they just like really, as soon as they bump up against some difficulty, they'll just like stop or like complain or like, just do whatever else. And that on a simple basis with all your activities and all the things you're doing, whatever you're trying to make happen, if you look at resistance and adversity and uncomfortableness and problems as, and just focus on the negativity of it and focus on the bad part of it, which is the more typical way to look at it, the more maybe knee-jerk reaction, human response, that's going to be difficult to get anywhere. And you can live a life like that, but you're just never really going to improve in anything, I don't think. And everybody has their own way of doing it, but I think this is one way where it's good. You look at it as like a positive, and and it's not like some happy utopia where now your life is awesome because you do this. You're still going to struggle and suffer and have to work hard through things, but it's like a little hack I've found that has helped a lot to working out specifically, but even with other areas of life, school, social media, content, and even women, even like approaching like now I would look at it the same way as like if you like are around a girl that you've met or like this or whatever the situation is, or you're going to approach her, you start to get nervous, you start to feel really uncomfortable. Yes, this is good. This is what we like. That means I'm actually interested. That means I actually like her. And it's the same thing that you could apply to that. Or like I had this issue where somebody really did me dirty, and previously I probably would not have confronted them. I would have just sort of avoided the situation, this, whatever, and gone on with things. But at this point in my life, I'm holding myself to a standard of, you communicate honestly how you feel, transparently, and if you're really about it and you're like, I'm going to, set this standard for myself and expect people to treat me this way, and I want my life to be like this, and I want this kind of respect, and somebody really dirty dogs you, and it's like super confrontational now. It's really awkward. It's uncomfortable. I'm not going to explain the details of the situation. I can't. But that's what the scenario was. And, I'm extremely nervous. I have a knot in my stomach. I'm like, I got to do this. And then you walk up to that motherfucker and tell him exactly what's going on. And that's, again, a similar thing where it's like uncomfortable. It's that same terrible feeling of of negativity or whatever. And even in that moment, I was like, okay, good. I got to do this. This is good. This is good. I'm going to go up and then that's how you actually change. Because like I said, my actions of how I would have approached that, several years prior, I wouldn't have done that. And if you can't like resist against the stress or the negativity or the uncomfortableness of whatever, then you can't really change, because that's what's dictating your behavior. Is this feels stressful, oh, I'm not going to keep working out because it's uncomfortable. I'm not going to prioritize going to the gym because it's uncomfortable. This, that. Oh, I'm not going to confront this person because it's uncomfortable. I'm not going to tell this person how I feel. I'm not going to stay true to what I want because it's hard to do. It's hard to implement and kind of affect life instead of having a life affect you. You go, this is my standard. This is how I want to live. Now I got to have the balls and the courage and the ability to resist and push against all of the stuff that comes, the negative feelings and the things that are trying to push you back to what you were and how you previously responded, which was comfortable. So finding a way to tap into that sick little fuck inside of you who looks forward to those shitty feelings and is like, yes. And again, this isn't coming from somebody who's some fucking guru, millionaire person, whatever. Like, it's, a fairly typical guy who is, dedicated to improving myself. And I think maybe, fast forward a few more years, I'm going to continue on this track. Maybe I'll have some more type of tangible result in terms of material standing or whatever, and then people would listen. But I think it's honestly more valuable. This is what I'm trying to say with this video, is like, it's always the people that are at the end destination. And it makes sense, right? But those are the people that are then disseminating the knowledge and whatever. And I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but I'm trying to share my experience as I go through these things on a daily basis with the gritty, detailed, this is my inadequacy, this is my behavior, how do I twist it, how do I improve, how do I get different results, what am I doing wrong, what do I suck at, why am I failing, what is a current recurring pattern and trend in my mind that's limiting me, and how do you improve those things? And I think everyday people who want to, chase after a life where they're doing something significant, where they're improving themselves, where they're challenging themselves, could just have a discussion about it more like this, instead of the only resource for that being somebody who's already at the finish line and then is telling you have to do it this XYZ way, following my footsteps. I just don't think it's as impactful. I don't think it actually leads to people really changing, because that person has gone through so many fucking things. And if somebody's at like step 1 and they're at step 99, like they don't even know how to go through step like 2 to 11, because you're talking about step 73, because that person is like at the pinnacle, and the way that you did it is a bit different too. And I don't know, that's just been my experience. I've been in that same boat, and I just don't find it's really beneficial to listen to those people. There's some interesting insights and stuff, but all that self-help, achieve this lifestyle, change your habits, do this, that, because I'm doing it and I'm crushing it in this way, I've never found it to really lead to, like, the only changes I've made is like when I just like get alone and quiet and reflect on what I'm doing and admit hard fucking truths about things I've fucked up, and then just come up with simple solutions or simple steps I could take to improve. Okay, next time I'm not going to fuck up as big, so I'm going to do this. And then you do that and you fuck something else up, and then you reflect on it. You go, okay, now next time I'm going to improve this. And then all of a sudden you're starting to actually change your behavior. And it's just a really difficult thing to do. And I think general people discussing it is a better way to actually relate with each other, support each other, and make the small little improvements that you can. Because you can't go from 0 to 100. Like you can just make tiny little improvements over a long period of time, and then maybe you're at that destination. But the process of doing it is what gives more meaning of what, in my opinion, like anytime you are like wanting to improve your life, and you're like, you have this goal of this body, or like this amount of money, or like this career, or like this end destination thing, I feel like it never actually that leads to an improvement. Like, oh, now I have this house that's really nice, or I have this car, now I have this like really beautiful girlfriend, or this amazing husband, or whatever it is. I just don't think those things really actually change unless you're like struggling to survive and you don't have a house to live in and you don't have food, and then you get shelter and food. I think that would drastically improve your life. But overall, and if you listen to rich people talk, they say the same thing. They're like, it doesn't it doesn't actually make your life better necessarily to have all these additional items and stuff, or it has a small impact. It's not drastic. Like the way that you think, if I had this money, if I had this body, if I had this, that, whatever, if I had this knowledge, my life would be so much better. I think that's the bad way to do it, because you're actually chasing comfortability, because your life would be better and more comfortable once you have that thing, once you have that really nice house, once you have that car, once you have the stability of a good income, once you have that girl, once you have that guy, whatever, it's going, ooh, that'll be a good feeling. Ooh, that'll be comfortable. Ooh, that'll make my life better. But in my experience, it's like you find a process that's difficult and challenging and actually leads to fulfillment on a more consistent, sustainable basis. That actually impacts your life in a way better way. And you set up a goal or a destination that involves that more material thing that's set up with comfort and it's a good situation. Okay, I want to go here, and then the process of working there towards that and changing yourself. And again, I'm not some massive success, but some of the changes I've made in myself, pushing up against something that's really difficult to do, like to be a successful fitness content creator is like really difficult, and I have some ability, let's say innate ability to do it, but I also was extremely inadequate in so many ways. And I've failed at it in so many different, and every time oh my God, that exposed this inadequacy where I was just chasing comfort, or my ego was too involved, or I got too consumed with the following growing and it distorted my habits, or I couldn't handle the negative responses, or I couldn't establish a healthy, balanced lifestyle, or whatever the limitation is, or I don't have enough patience. I was chasing the outcome too soon. All these things expose the inadequacies in my ability to be a successful fitness content creator and actually make a living off of it. And each time one of those things got exposed, I eventually addressed it and improved it and looked at it. And then if I look at this whole process, it's improved my mindset, my ability to deal with stress, my character, my view on life overall. Those are some of the simple ways that I would summarize it. And so that process of pushing up against something that's challenging has improved my life, and also it's given me what am I trying to say? The process of doing it is what is actually meaningful and fulfilling and engaging, and is actually a realistic goal, let's say, where it's not some super utopia that's filled with dopamine and all these good feelings, because it's not reality. That's not life. Like, you have to find a life that you want to live, and there's going to be ups and downs and shitty and good and all this other stuff. And how do you make it meaningful on a daily basis? And having that end goal of that, I got the guy, I got the girl, I got the car, I got the money, I got the job, I got the status, I got the whatever. I really don't think that it gives you any of that. Because then what do you do after that? And everything you get, and think about something you've bought, you can't wait to get it. Like, I buy a new camera, I'm so excited, and then now you don't even notice it. I remember for a period of time I was living with some friends of mine, and this was maybe 6 years ago or something, and I didn't have a door for the first month and a half. I lived in this little nook hallway thing called the bike room, and I was just on this shitty futon, whatever. And then after a month and a half, I moved into one of the rooms, and I was so fucking grateful to have a door. To have a door that closes. So I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is fucking awesome. But I had no idea, because I'd lived my whole life with doors. I always had a room. I was fortunate enough to have my own room growing up and have a door on it. And I think that's just a really good example that shows you all these certain things, you just end up taking them for granted. And then it's like, okay, well, what's next? Your mind shifts onto something else. And then you don't even notice all this stuff that you have. And so you got to find a process. That's my take, is I find a process of something that's difficult to do, that's challenging, that I work towards, and just the process of doing that leads to more fulfillment. But the problem is, you have to be okay with being consistently uncomfortable, consistently examining yourself, consistently pushing yourself outside of your boundaries, and it doesn't really feel good all that much all the time, but you end up with a more fulfilled, more accomplished direction, and on a daily basis, in the long run, you're going to feel better. In the short run, you're not. And I think that's the dilemma a lot of people end up dealing with, and that you choose the short run comfortability, whether it's to avoid pushing yourself doing this, to avoid the confrontation, to avoid enacting the discipline, to whatever it is. Short term makes you feel better. You stay within your limits, you stay comfortable, your life is okay. In the long run, you start to feel dead inside. Your soul starts to wither up, and you aren't really living up to your potential to do things. And the unfortunate reality is, I think 99% of people live like that and will continue to live like that. And I don't think anything I'm going to say or anyone else say is going to change it, because the main core thing that changes that or shifts that is if you're able to deal with a lot of uncomfortability, stress, negative feelings, and push yourself through them. And I think innately some people are better at it than others. I think for myself, I was not very good at that, and I chased comfortability for so long in all my motivations and ambitions and desires. I want this. Every time it's at the end is so I can be more comfortable. And Some people, you look at them and right from get number one, they're like crushing it and they just like push through all this stress, and you put yourself in those shoes. I have this friend that like right after high school, he just drove down to the States, like, doesn't know anybody, pushes against maybe what his parents want, pushes against a friend group, pushes against what you're supposed to do, all these other paths, all these things that are going to cause all this negative feeling and emotion and resistance. Goes down there, doesn't know anyone, doesn't have a lot of money. You got to deal with that stress. You got to deal with a new environment. You don't know anybody. You're looking for a job, random jobs, blah, 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 applying, uncomfortable, rejected, you suck, rejected. All this negative shit that would come with that would deter way more, probably more than 99% of people, 99.9%. And at 18 years old, he was able to just fucking do that. And so I look at that and I'm like even at 30 now, I could maybe do that now after I've spent a lot of time improving myself from dealing with more adversity and different experiences and stuff and reflecting on them and realizing that you got to be able to handle the stress. You got to be able to handle the negativity if you want to get a result, if you want to do something with your life, if you want to change things instead of just taking what comes to you. And this motherfucker had it from like the get-go. And it's innate or it's your upbringing or whatever, but there's a variability there, which is I think is really important to acknowledge. But it's also a choice. Like you could be a soft motherfucker. I was a soft motherfucker. And that's my path has been. That's why I have to fail through all these things, because I have this ambition or something that you want to do, based on what I mentioned with the fitness content and creating, but even in other areas of my life or things. And it's a similar pattern of like these inadequacies of wanting comfort. You can't get things or change your circumstance that much if you just stay in that lane. And I had to learn it the really hard way in a number of different instances. But life is an amazing teacher if you listen and are willing to have the courage to apply. And I think one of the biggest things is just lay down by yourself, turn the lights off, lay there and just start asking yourself tough questions. And having the courage to admit what you really want and admit how you've taken no steps towards it because you're too much of a fucking pussy to push yourself out of your zone. I've had that conversation, but then you can improve, right? But if you can't deal with that even initial uncomfortability, then I don't know what you can do, right? Like you have to be able to be honest with yourself. Even if you're going to flex and front in the world and do this and you don't want to admit and have all these open, that's okay. But when you get alone in the dark by yourself and a little time with your mind, you have to be able to be brutally honest with what you're good at, what you suck at, what you're fucking up, and just ruthlessly admit to yourself. And then and then the path becomes clear of what you need to do. It's no longer, oh, how do I do this? How do I become rich? How do I blah, 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 blah. Just look internally at what your inadequacies are and take action on improving them. And it's simple. Like you just look at what you do, look at your behavior, look at your habits, and the solution is very simple of how to change them, Oh, I always try to show people that I'm really smart and I have to win arguments and I spend all this time trying to flex on people and act like I'm superior to them and all this other stuff. Oh, that you can very easily see how that would limit you because you're not able to learn because you always need to be the smartest person. Okay, so you're missing out on a lot of information. You deter a lot of people from wanting to form relationships and work with you because nobody wants to be around that person who's a know-it-all and flexes all the time. So that limits you in your ability to network. What is going on? Why do you feel that way? You're too insecure with yourself to be wrong or to not be the top dog. So why are you doing that? You have to flex and pretend to be the top dog instead of actually being the top dog. And those solutions would be simple things to do. Okay, I need to shut the fuck up and listen when I need to assess. Okay, this person knows more than me. Let me listen so I can improve. Why am I so worried about being superior all the time? Okay, maybe it's because this happened in my life and that happened. I need to get comfortable with that and be okay. It's okay to feel that way, but I need to get comfortable with it and so that I can harness it and handle it and not let it dictate my behavior. That's just an example because I see people do that sometimes. That usually somebody like that has quite a bit of potential and they are good at certain things, but then they don't continue to progress. They stagnate because it's more important to them to stroke their ego and show that they're smart and good at stuff than to continue to progress. So whatever your situation is, like whatever your example is, you have to figure it out for yourself, but just there's inadequacies in your ability, in your thought process, in everything that you're doing, in mine. And if you have an honest conversation of what they are, then you can improve. And this turned into a complete ramble, but I think these are good conversations to have. I don't know if there's going to be an audience for this, but I want to make these videos because these are real life things that I've lived and continue to live and deal with, and it's nothing fucking special. I'm not some superstar person. I'm a regular person just like you. And I think anybody who actually wants to improve themselves and maybe go after something, these are the conversations that you should have. And I just want to open that up and share my thoughts And hopefully it impacts somebody and sparks something and gets you thinking a bit more and talking a bit more and making some steps to improve. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.